Welcome to Dark Minds, Shattered Lives, where we expose predators, dive into the minds of evildoers, and help you and your loved ones avoid them. I'm your host, Deborah Dobbs. I'm an author and victim advocate with a reputation for rattling cages. Today's episode is part 2 of our human trafficking series, and Joe Scaramucci is back. He is the Director of Law Enforcement Training and Operations for Skull Games, a nonprofit organization that is devoted to helping law enforcement interdict sex predators. And these fine men and women are accomplishing their mission. A few years ago, I got to go into the field with Joe Scaramucci and do a little bit of surveillance. I learned a lot about these illicit massage businesses and why they're just so bad. On the surface, you might just think, yeah, that's really unpleasant. They get a paycheck, sure. But they have to buy groceries. They have to buy all of their personal necessities, but they don't actually get to go to the store themselves to do it and see what the real prices are. Many of them sleep there. They don't leave. They rarely see the light of day. The traffickers are the ones that go to the store, they get their groceries, they get their necessities, and then they'll charge them $15 for a crappy little toothbrush. They overcharge everything. This ensures victims will never have money. They will never be able to save. They will never be able to put down a deposit on an apartment. They go to these places thinking that, yes, they're actually going to be giving massages. And then when they get there, they find out, oh no, that's not what it is. These illicit massage businesses, really, they're indentured servitude from which someone will never really be free. Human trafficking sometimes is just a euphemism for slavery. Joe's going to show you, just regular people in the community, how to identify these operations and put together your own intel packet to present to the officials in your city if you want to get these illegal enterprises shut down. He's going to tell us how so many law enforcement operations are getting it wrong. So wrong that they make headlines, as did some detectives at the Lewisville Police Department. He's also going to give you some really candid information about the other organizations that are supposedly combating trafficking to help you be able to spot which ones are legitimate and which ones are a joke. So get ready for another eye-opening episode with Joe Scaramucci of Skull Games. We heard a lot about what you do at Skull Games, what Skull Games does as an organization on the last episode, but I want you to tell me about the name. Where did the name come from?
Yeah, we're the only counter sex trafficking nonprofit with a flaming skull for a symbol. So there's a trafficker, there's a very famous pimp by the name of Iceberg Slim, and one of his famous quotes is that pimping is not a sex game, it's a skull game. And what he's saying is it's obviously not a sexual related game, it's the psychology that matters behind it. So it's us playing our skull game back with traffickers.
Mm-hmm. I love it. We had talked offline about how you were so overwhelmed with the trafficking, the sex trafficking that you described in the first episode, that you're not able to dive into the day-to-day operations of the type of trafficking we're talking about today, the illicit massage businesses, but that you still do a lot of training on that for law enforcement, correct?
Oh yeah, totally. And in fact, a large chunk of the trainings that we do are on parlors, right? When it comes to the day-to-day intel type stuff, no, because we're overwhelmed everywhere else. If a law enforcement agency asks for help on them, then obviously we do help.
Can you quickly, for residents, just for civilians, can you
Yeah.
run through the warning signs or the red flags to look for to differentiate between what is legitimate
Yeah.
and what is not?
Couple of the easiest ones. If all the windows on the exterior are covered in some way. Usually, if you think about it, you go to the shopping mall, you're walking past Massage Envy, you can see through the windows into the lobby. And you can't see beyond that, but you can see into the actual lobby. So that's going to be a big one. All you got to do is Google the phone number. If it pops up commercial sex, we have a problem.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, all you got to do is Google it. It's on there. If they're doing the dirties, it's on there. Then one of the biggest is all male clientele. I get regular massages. Like Every other week, I'm getting a massage, but I'm also passing women on my way in and out, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if you're going to a place and it is nothing but men, or if you sit outside and you watch nothing but men, there's a problem there because the reality is, let's just face it, most of the business in massage is women,
Yeah.
right? So if you're not seeing women go in, that would be a huge red flag. The other would just be hours of operation, right? So if they're open till 10, 11, 12 at night, 24 hours, there's no reason for that. I mean, people don't get massages at 2 a.m. They get
Hmm.
sex, right? So,
Hmm. And
that would be a red flag.
we saw people pulling up really early in the morning and bringing food. Obviously, it was like
Yeah.
takeout food. It looked like there was probably 8 containers, for 8 people or so, and they brought it in the back door of one of
Yep.
these places. That's kind of a warning sign too, right?
Yeah, for sure. They'll obviously take, food from the grocery store. I mean, that's obvious. But like if it's somewhere where you have an Asian grocery store, right? Like an H
Mhm.
Mart, yeah, you'll watch the H Mart bags going in and out.
Okay.
Um, the dumpsters are full of H Mart bags. And I use them. I'm not saying that H Mart is, complicit in this by any stretch, but any given Asian grocery store. But yeah, I mean, you can watch the food deliveries, you can watch the money pickups. If the women do live off site, and they have an apartment nearby, you'll watch them get dropped off. If it's real close, you'll watch them walk there. You can pretty much see everything going on. Think about any business, right? Let's just say Massage Envy is, just for sake of simplicity. There's not a single vehicle that pulls up to Massage Envy and all the employees get out, right?
Right.
They stagger in depending on work times, things like that, in their own vehicles. So if you have a vehicle pulling up and 4 people are getting out, that's an issue.
And originally, where are the victims coming from? How are they finding and getting to these places?
The usually what's happening is they're coming through a couple different locations. One would be LA, the other is New York. If it's LA, it's going to generally be like Chino Hills. It's areas that are very high Asian population. If it's New York, everything's going to come back to Flushing, right? So that's a kind of an area within Queens. Flushing is where we'll see the majority of women in Texas. They come through there. Highest concentration of Chinese people anywhere in the world except for China is in Flushing, New York.
Hmm.
So a lot of times it's very word of mouth, or it may be on apps that are primarily used by that demographic, right? So I get online, I look, I want a job. Texas sounds great. I've heard all about Dallas. I saw Dallas TV show, and I'm looking at jobs, and one of them is massage, and it says they're going to pay me 6,000 a month. Boom, I'm there. It's that easy, right? Now they're not getting paid $6,000 a month, but that's what they're getting into, thinking that that is what it
Okay.
is.
And they can't leave and say, "Oh, this isn't what I wanted to do. I'm going to go somewhere else."
Oh, that's difficult. They can. That's the hard part.
Okay.
And that's what's interesting. They can, but this is where I caveat everything. But you owe me money as the owner, right? Also, think about the cultural lockdown that you're in. So, prime example, first illicit massage business case I ran in Waco. You had two businesses that you could stand on the porch of one and look at the other, both with Mandarin speaking Chinese women in Waco, Texas, and they did not know each other existed. How can you, as a Mandarin speaking Chinese person in Waco, Texas, live within eyesight of somebody and not know they exist? But then when the cops talk to you and you say, yes, I'm free to go, I can go wherever I want, I'm free. The next question is, but where do you go?
Yeah.
Generally what I ask people is, let me take you and I'm going to tell you, hey, I'm going to drop you in the middle of this village in China. And I'm going to tell you that you can't call the police, because if you do, they're going to beat you. They're going to take all your money and they're just going to send you right back. I pay them on the side, right? So they work
Hmm.
with me. You're going to do this job, but you're free to leave it whenever you want. What are you going to do? Where are you going? Who are you calling? Right?
That's assuming that you still have a phone.
Yeah, and even take it a step further. Say you come from a country like they do, where there is a lot of law enforcement corruption,
Hmm.
and you're very used to the police doing that. What reason do I have not to believe you? I've seen this my whole
Okay.
life. Of course I get it. Yeah.
And if they get shut down, where do the women go? I mean, I know in Dallas we have an organization, it's Mosaic Family Services, and I don't
Yeah.
know of many others, but they've been around forever. I mean, they've been around for decades.
In fact,
Um,
Mosaic is who has taken my international trafficking victims historically, right? So in my massage businesses, when they went somewhere, they went to Mosaic.
okay.
Uh,
I got to see the facility and they have kind of apartment style living and they know that people from other countries that way they can get the food that they're used to eating and they can
yeah, yeah.
cook. It's not like a lot of some of the domestic violence shelters where no you can't bring in food from the outside. This is very it's a very good approach.
Yeah, and I think the cultural piece is huge too, right? We don't think about that, but the first case I had, right, so actually the one I was just saying where they lived so close together, I thought I was being like super nice. And when we did search warrants, I brought Chick-fil-A. And because who doesn't
What
like
is
Chick-fil-A?
this?
It's the Lord's chicken. Oh my gosh, these women looked at me like I was crazy. So needless to say, me and the kid had Chick-fil-A that night for dinner because they didn't touch it.
So while we're talking about illicit massage parlors and we're talking you mentioned police corruption, why don't we talk about what the hell happened in Lewisville, Texas?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's pretty common.
Okay, what happened?
Many got fired, many got suspended. There's been, obviously some disciplinary. I don't know that arrest is not possible. I just know that it hasn't happened yet, if it is going to happen. Wrong execution of the right idea, right? Let me go. You know, I just, you, I beat my head on a wall here sometimes. I think as law enforcement, we should not have to have a policy that says thou shalt not engage in illicit acts with anyone on duty, right? But
Mhm.
apparently we have to have this in policy. So from everything I know and in my conversations up there, they began investigations into IMBs, illicit massage businesses, which I'm all for. I think that those led to some undercover. And I think that we as law enforcement sometimes take undercover too far. And I say that in the sense that, well, she began to touch me here, but I allowed it in order to not blow my cover.
Mhm.
That's a problem. That's a huge problem. I'm a firm believer in when law enforcement does certain things, i.e., engage in sex to not blow cover, or to make sure that the other person's not a cop, which I hear from time to time. I think that's sexual assault, in my opinion. You hold the power dynamic. You know you're the cop. You know they're not the cop.
Mhm.
You know what they're doing. So undercover work in illicit massage businesses in my opinion, should be nothing more than intel gathering. And I say intel gathering in the sense of I'm walking in and I'm looking and I'm going camera, camera, camera. I have to be buzzed in through this door, right? So I know that when it comes time to execute a warrant, we have this obstruction. There's the router. I need somebody to pull the router when we get in here. And I'm getting a massage and I hear two women talking, which tells me I have three women in this business, right? I smell food cooking, which is not consistent with takeout. There's obviously a difference in smell between something being cooked and something that's cooked. Therefore, I'm pretty sure that they're probably living here. But I think that it was taken too far in the sense that they were trying to prove prostitution charges versus human trafficking of the owner, not the prostitution of the actual women involved, right? Which is not needed.
Did they arrest them for prostitution?
My belief or my understanding is that's how all of this came to light was that the district attorney's office got these cases and went, what in the world is this?
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
yes, they did get arrested for prostitution, which is completely inconsistent with any real industry standard at this point.
Jeez. Were they
And is
just
not, I
not
mean, it really doesn't have a place.
so you could go through and everything you just named, you're putting together a trafficking case. You don't need to become a fake client and actually experience a firsthand, the sexual activity.
Not at all. But unfortunately, that's a fairly common thing. I just saw a deal in the law enforcement agency, not this one, where they were even having guys that were popping ED meds, and they were doing it
Oh,
just like they were doing it prior to, so that the women had to like actively look at their stuff, right? It was just a weird kind of like, haha, here we go.
that's
And I
bizarre.
think one of them was actually on camera. In fact, I know he was. He was on camera saying, "Well, there's no turning back now," and then popping his pill.
Who?
So
Okay.
it's not limited to that agency by any stretch of the imagination. The part for me that is very disturbing is that the majority of those people have sat through my training, and we've had in-depth conversation about how to investigate these places and what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And it is stressed in those trainings. It is very much stressed that we do not do that. We do not engage in that, and you still chose to. So I kind of have no sympathy there.
That's one thing I was going to ask you was like, where are they just not trained? I mean, even lack of training doesn't justify taking ED medicine, and that's disgusting, you
Yeah.
know. And what if they're wrong? What if you're just dealing with a massage therapist and here comes this guy and he's a
Yeah.
pig? He'll very much feel like a predator. That'd be
Yeah,
scary.
which actually happens though, right? So I have a couple of massage therapists locally that have reached out, and they're like, "Whoa, this guy's calling. This guy's asking these questions. He tried this, he tried that." If you look at these clowns, they're going to IMBs. Right? So
Hmm.
they just assume because that's what they do in those places that that works across the board, I guess, or that just every woman who they've ever come in contact with is just chomping at the bit to get their hands full with this clown, and it's like, dude, come on, man.
If you're a citizen and you want to do something and you're not okay with this happening in your community,
Yeah.
what do you do? How do you, because you could call the police department and they'd be like, yeah, well, then they have to set up a big operation. Or do they call you?
Sometimes they do, right?
I mean, is that
It's
something you can recommend? Is they just call you?
depending on, yeah, I mean,
Because you're not
I'm
busy.
yeah, I always listen, right? I always help where I can. I've assisted cities with passing ordinances, right? So that answer just depends. You know as well as I do, though, you can always run into a roadblock, right? So
Oh, yeah.
city council goes to, or a citizen goes to city council. Hey, I've got this going on. I think this place is human trafficking, blase, blase. Council gets involved. They go to the chief. Hey, chief, what's going on at 123 Main Street? I'm getting citizen complaints saying that they think this is human trafficking. A couple things can happen. One, they send a cop in to go do an undercover. He doesn't get offered anything. He comes out and goes, yeah, it's nothing. Investigation over. Or at times you find yeah, look, let me get it to the captain, right? The captain gets it, who's been a cop since 1980, and he's like, it's just a bunch of prostitutes in there. Chief, man, you want to mess with this Class B misdemeanor? Look over here. We just had 4 ag robberies the other day. We would really need to address this.
Hmm.
And then it becomes an issue of what's important. I almost hesitate to say this. I had a chief very early in my career that I asked him a question about something, and it was innocent. It wasn't anything or even criminal related. And he looked at me while we were washing our hands in the bathroom, and he said, "You know what, rookie? Sometimes you just got to learn how to play the game. You don't start any shit, there won't be any shit." Now, when you think about it, now push that over to IMB investigations. You're out of
Hmm.
sight, out of mind. I'm not looking at you because you're inside for 20 hours a day, 24 hours a day, right? I don't have to acknowledge you. You don't have to acknowledge me. As long as I'm not kicking that rock over, there can't be a snake under it. So
Hmm.
you find that a lot too, where it goes to very much like, just let's tone this down. Go to council. Hey, councilman so and so. Hey, mayor. Yeah, we did a little digging. No human trafficking going on. We're good to go. Cool. By the way, we have these robberies, right? And Councilman so and so's car got broke into.
Where you had something where you could look up a city and tell somebody
Yeah.
how many of these things are in the town or the city.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, right? Like doing research, do your research, and things are publicly available, right? So, give me a city. Like, what city you want me to look at, and I'll kind of explain how.
Plano, Texas.
Okay, let's go to Plano.
Plano PD might actually do something. That's been my experience with them.
Yeah, so we go here. There's a business that was reviewed sexually as of yesterday. So when I come in here, I look.
And that app is only for law enforcement, right? That's not
Oh,
for
no,
regular.
no, this is publicly available. We exploit this. This is you can get on here too. You just got to pay, but you can get on here.
What is it?
It's called, oh, I hate to put it out there for people that way if no people certain people
Oh,
don't.
if you don't want
So
perpetrators on that, do you?
no, but I'll tell you offline. But this guy says here on the flip, she started negotiating. So when he got on his back, I offered 60. She said 100. I'll do 100 for nude and oral sex. He didn't say oral, but he's saying, and they go to town, right? But the interesting thing is, this website's completely publicly available. I'm going to take the phone number and I'm just going to Google it, right? So let me copy it, paste. It brings me to that. It brings me to a website for sex, another website for sex, another website for sex, their Facebook page, the fact that their business establishment license expired, another sex page, the Chamber of Commerce, another sex page, another sex. So the question is, like, do we have any idea? Like, do we have any doubt what's going on in here? No, right? Obviously. So when we look at like how do we report this to city council or whatever, if it were me personally, I would just take something like this in there and be like, hey, so you're telling me there's no problem here, but this place is registered with the Chamber of Commerce, and
Oh
here's
no.
all the things you need to know. Here's another one that was reviewed 4 days ago. Dirty page, Facebook, dirty page, Yahoo, another dirty page, but in Chinese. Interesting. Another one, another, all dirty pages, right? So, Councilman so and so, there is no denying what is occurring here. Let's add one more little flair to it. I have no idea, so I just searched the address. It's next to, you're gonna love this, a Starbucks, a grocery store, a business, a church, another coffee place, a city building, a restaurant. So this is all happening literally right in front of people. And I think where you can get some more bang for the buck with councilmen and women is, oh, it's also right across the street from, and this is perfect, a soccer field. So this is where you start going, look, this is human trafficking. I literally searched this online here in what, the last minute
Yeah.
using Google. And I'm able to show you all the places where kids hang out, where families hang out. All of this is occurring right there in front of you. Let's see how close a school is. Let's see. Um, there is a school that is less than half. Oh God, no, there's actually a school that's across the street, and
Okay.
then several others within a half mile.
Do you have a Starbucks and you have a school and you have
Yeah, it's like
restaurants?
one's a private school. I mean, there's
Okay.
plenty here, right? The other thing too is, in higher end areas, who can afford to pay for sex is people with money, right?
Everybody. They don't have to do law enforcement investigation, right? Can they just
It definitely helps in my opinion, but it is possible to do code. It's possible to do fire, right? So fire marshals investigating code. There's more than one ways to skin that cat.
mm-hmm.
The El Paso County Attorney's Office does a really good job of doing nuisance abatement on a lot of these places. So they're actually closing down through nuisance and not criminal charges.
I want to change gears and talk about organizations that are combating trafficking and if people want to support them. You have some guidance there.
This question comes up a lot, and I say this of any organization. There's a few things I will caution on this. Do your research. If it's a big organization, chances are they're big because they're full of it. Um,
Okay, let's tackle this right now
all right.
because there are these celebrities.
Operation Underground Railroad, nonsense,
Okay.
right? Nonsense. People, oh my God, look, they're giving electronic detection dogs to law enforcement. What the hell? Okay, whatever, right? I don't even want to get into those things. But, oh, well, they worked in operation in Haiti. Oh, did they? Did they? Because I know of some that they did in other countries that those countries will tell you, yeah, okay, whatever. There's some other ones out there that I would always, always, always question. And one of the things that I will say to use as a test, big numbers. If we claim 300 rescues this year, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What if you have an organization say we rescued 300 victims of human trafficking this year? What does that mean? Because oftentimes what that means is we go to the massage business here and we hand a pamphlet to four women that says, "Hey, here's help." And then we leave. They will oftentimes call that we rescued a victim, right? So there's a lot of nonsense in this field. There's a lot of noise. Big numbers are nonsense. If they claim CIA in any form, move on, right? I just saw one yesterday that was like he was trained by the CIA. Okay, because the CIA is well known for combating human trafficking in the United States. Who doesn't know that, right? That's just stupid. If oh my gosh, there's just so many, which is unfortunate.
How did
Um,
you like the movie?
oh, it's nonsense. The movie The Sound of Freedom, which I'm sure is what you're talking about,
Yes.
that that created more harm than it did good in the United States, right? So, and this is where people really just get under my skin, if we're being honest. They would say, "Well, I saw The Sound of Freedom. I know about human trafficking," and I'm like, "Cool. I've only done human trafficking in about 15 different countries, but primarily the United States." And I've never seen trafficking occur like that in any of those countries, right? I haven't. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is I'm more worried about getting killed in a plane crash on my way to go to that country than I am that trafficking occurring in that country. So then the immediate response generally is, well, at least it brought awareness. And I'm like, but did it? It didn't. It brought awareness to a non-existent event. So can I tell you, I'm here to talk to you about pancreatic cancer. Let me talk to you about brain cancer. And then be like, well, I brought awareness to cancer. These are two completely different things. I,
Mm-hmm.
if I have pancreatic cancer, I don't want to know about brain cancer. I want to know about cancer in the pancreas. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so don't tell me what brought awareness because it didn't. It didn't bring awareness to anything. Never mind the fact that there's so much there's discrepancies regarding a particular person's career that we potentially highlighted in this movie. But again, it did nobody any good. It actually created a lot of harm in this field
For
and
those of you that are actually doing the work, is
that
that
are
what you
actually
mean?
doing the work. Yeah,
Okay.
it didn't do us any good.
Isn't Tim
Some of the other
Tebow doing something? Tim Tebow, is he involved in something?
Yeah, and again, kind of same thing, right? One thing I will caution with Tim Tebow, I believe his heart is in the right place. Genuinely,
Yeah.
I've met the guy. I truly, truly believe he's trying to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that always look like? And it could be different things. Going back to what are we doing here?
Yeah. And
And
what Skull Games is doing differently?
yeah, so what we do differently is for
Well,
one,
you
we
know
do
what you're
not
doing.
inflate numbers, right? We're not going to tell you, oh, we did this and this and this. Like we don't. We just don't do that. Another is you will not see particularly with marketing, we did XYZ. We don't claim to do the work of the law enforcement agencies. What we will say is we assisted them with this part.
Mhm.
We didn't go out, we didn't rescue shit. We had an agency 2 weeks ago that when we were in Tulsa, they were like, "Yeah, we knew about this girl. We just never knew who her trafficker was. Thank you. You gave them to us. We didn't go slap handcuffs on this guy, right? We didn't
Yeah.
go do phone pings. We just told you who he was and showed you how we knew who he was, and that is what worked for you." The other thing that we do is and this is going to sound trivial. We do the work. We're not
Mm-hmm.
we're not riding coattails. We do not take pictures with other people's fish. It just doesn't happen, right? I think one of the biggest is frankly the credibility at the end of the day.
Well, Joe, You gave us a lot of information and a lot to think about. It was eye-opening. Thanks for your candor. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I need to do some wrap-up, like a conclusion and some clarifications. First, regarding that website Joe was using that's open to the public, we're not going to broadcast that. I can't even put that in the narrative because it's just icky. And I can't, in good conscience, direct you to it or inadvertently help perpetrators. But all you got to do is get on the internet and you look for massage parlor reviews. You're going to see them. You can probably just use your discretion and figure out pretty quick which ones are those dirty pages. And here's another clarification. Skull Games, while they may be able to give information and they do have trainings for civilians, they only work with law enforcement. If you email Joseph Scaramucci, and you're not writing from a law enforcement agency, for instance, your email extension is not .gov or clearly a law enforcement agency email, he won't even get it. It won't even land in his inbox. And because he's given you some of the things to look for, like the red flags that are pretty easy to see, you can gather that information up and you can direct them to this podcast and they can hear it for themselves. Or at the very least, let them know about Skull Games and that is what led you to putting together this information packet. You can give it to your city council people or you can give it to your police chief. And it's important. Everyone knows Skull Games does not charge law enforcement agencies a dime for their assistance. And to our law enforcement agencies that are listening, here's a reminder. If you want to do something about illicit massage businesses, just focus on intel gathering. And if you have some detective that's chomping at the bit to go deep, deep undercover and get on one of those massage tables, think twice. And last, but definitely not least, if you would like to support Skull Games and their efforts, you can go to their website to donate because that's what they need. They need financial support. They've got plenty of volunteers, they've got lots of IT, but they need money to function. Just go to their website, it's skullgames.org, and you can donate today. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Dark Minds, Shattered Lives. I'm Deborah Dobbs, and until next time, trust your gut and know your exits.